Many teachers in the online teaching community started teaching online with Outschool back when the pandemic hit in 2020. And during that time, finding students and creating successful classes was a little bit different. Now, in today's video, I actually wanted to share with you 5 tips I recommend to online teachers who are just getting started with Outschool or a similar marketplace in 2022. Tip number 1 is market research. Now, before I put my 2 cents into what market research is, let me read to you a definition I found on Oxford. According to Oxford, market research is the action or activity of gathering information about consumers' needs and preferences. So as you can see here, basically you're gathering information about your ideal customer, or in this case, it would be your ideal student. As an Outschool teacher, it's very important that you do some research to see if your class ideas or classic subjects or topics are actually in demand. And then you can actually learn more about your ideal student. So here are some questions you could actually ask yourself. Does the class I want to create already exist? If so, how can I make the class unique and a bit different? When looking at successful classes, what makes these classes and teachers successful? What stands out to you? When looking at classes that are not successful, what makes these classes not successful? What stands out to you and seems like something you want to avoid? Asking yourselves questions like these can actually help you create classes that are still in demand, but are a little bit different and unique to what's already provided on the Outschool Marketplace platform. So as a side note, this is not me telling you that you do market research and just copy other teachers' ideas, but you can get ideas. You can get, is this class subject in demand? Is this theme in demand? Is this age grouping in demand? So you can learn a lot from seasoned Outschool teachers without necessarily copying their ideas. So that number 1 tip for new Outschool teachers is to conduct market research before you start creating tons and tons of different Outschool classes. Now, before I continue with my next tip, in case you are new here, hello, my name is Alejandra Landano. I'm an online teacher who shares on here all things about teaching online, Teacherpreneur Life, TPT, and more. If any of those topics or subjects interest you at all, I highly recommend you subscribe so you don't miss future videos and future content. Tip number 2 is to have a backup plan. And this can look different for lots of online teachers, but I do not recommend during this time in 2022 for you to have no other streams of income when you are just starting with Outschool. I recommend you have a backup plan. And this is really because building a consistent Outschool schedule takes time. Now, there are a few things that can be considered your backup plan. For example, you might be working full-time online or in the classroom. That's a perfect backup plan. So you keep that stream of income until your Outschool business has started to find success. You might actually apply for other online companies like Outschool or things like it. So applying to multiple companies when you're just getting started is also a great backup plan. You might have a part-time job like substituting or working at a restaurant, but having some backup plan when you're starting with Outschool now is super important, so you're not overwhelmed and stressed if you're not getting bookings right from the start. For example, I did 2 different things when I was building my ESL business back when I used to teach for VIP Kid and iTutor Group. When I first started with those companies, I was actually still a full-time teacher. So my full-time teaching income was my backup plan, and I started to build a regular schedule with VIP Kid. Then once I left the classroom, I also had another backup plan. I was hired with more than one ESL company. So I worked for VIP Kid, I worked for iTutor Group, and then I also had GoGo Kid. So those were my backup plans in case I didn't get enough enrollments for that first company. So I always recommend you have some sort of backup plan, especially when you're starting now with Outschool in 2022. Tip number 3 is to take advantage of free resources. So if you are starting with Outschool now in 2022, there are tons of teachers, online teachers who have been doing this for years, and so many online teachers provide so many different tips, value, and resources to you at no extra charge. I highly recommend you take advantage of those. I kind of wish I would have done that more when I started my online teaching journey. And I thought I would share just a few examples of what resources you can actually use if you are just starting to teach online with Outschool. For example, I have one free resource. It's a tutoring guide. So if you are just getting started with Outschool, I always recommend that one of the first classes you create is actually a one-on-one tutoring class in whatever niche you have. Check out my YouTube channel, and I actually share step-by-step how to create your first listing if you want it to be tutoring online. But I do have a free guide that is perfect for those of you that want to start teaching and tutoring online, which is such a steady stream of income through Outschool. Now, Outschool also has a really good resource library. They provide lots of articles and tips through those articles that are great for online teachers. Take advantage of those. Maybe make the goal of reading 1 article a week, 3 articles a week. Write down and take notes from those articles, but take advantage of those resources that Outschool gives you. If you're here on YouTube, then you're probably already taking advantage of free YouTube content. I know me, as well as many other Outschool or online teachers, love to share free tips and resources, so take advantage of those free YouTube videos. Almost look at it as professional development. Like when you're when you're a classroom teacher, you usually have to go to professional development once in a while. Take some of these YouTube videos as professional development. Learn from other online teachers who have been doing it a little bit longer than maybe you have. Tip number 4 is to create multiple class types. Now, when you're first starting, I'm not saying you need to create a class for every single different format, like flex classes, one-time classes, ongoing classes, multi-day classes, flex, if I didn't already say that. So you don't need to create everything right away, but I do recommend doing 1 or 2 and then slowly adding more. You really want to experiment with different classes and different class types. So when you're first starting with Outschool, I'll share what I personally recommend. I recommend 2 different types. I recommend one-time classes and one-on-one tutoring classes. So I always recommend you start with those, and then as you slowly start to get some enrollments, then you can start to add more different class types. For example, you might want to add multi-day classes or camps, and then you might also want to add ongoing classes or clubs. But you just have to remember that if you just create one class type, one class, one time, it might not be successful, and that's okay, because Outschool is definitely a trial and error process. You have to experiment with different things to see what works well for your teaching style and your niche. So if you want to be successful with Outschool, you do have to experiment with different class types. Just don't do it all from the start. Start with 1 or 2 and then slowly add to your Outschool profile. Tip number 5 is to connect with other online teachers through social media. So obviously there are definitely pros and cons to connecting with others on social media. Especially though, if you have the goal of becoming a full-time online teacher, I highly recommend you find some teachers that kind of have similar goals so you can motivate each other. And there are many different places you can find a teacher community. For example, you can definitely join different memberships. For example, I just interviewed my friend Jenna a few weeks ago. That should probably already be on my channel, that interview. But she has an awesome membership where she helps teachers grow and they can motivate each other to reach their business goals. You can also connect with many other teachers on Instagram. That's probably one of my favorite places to connect with others. And it just helps you feel less lonely and just relate to others that are doing something similar to you, since we definitely have a very unique job. You can also connect with others on TikTok as well as different Facebook groups. Definitely be careful with some of the Facebook groups because sometimes they're not as positive, but I know personally I have a small Facebook group where Outschool teachers, or specifically teachers that are trying to teach one-on-one classes, can meet together and ask each other different questions. But find a teacher community to help you stay encouraged, inspired, and motivated. And those are my 5 tips for you. Now, right now, there are tons of teachers on the Outschool platform, but that does not mean there's not enough room for you. There is definitely room for you to be an amazing, successful online Outschool teacher. Let me know if you have any other tips for newbies that are just getting started. Now, like always, if you found this video helpful, make sure you give it a thumbs up and you don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss future videos and future content. Thank you again for watching. I truly, truly appreciate it, and I will see you in a future video.